What's it like behind the wheel of the Ford Puma Gen-E? Is a battery health certificate a BEV necessity? And what is the latest from European used car markets? This is the Automotive Update, presented by AutoVista24. I'm Tom Geggus, editor of AutoVista24, here with the latest edition of the Automotive Update. I'm going to take you through the last 7 days of headlines from AutoVista24. First up, AutoVista24 has published its latest launch report, which examines a model's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats across major European markets. On top of this, it also benchmarks the model's forecast residual value performance. This time around, the Ford Puma Gen-E got the launch report treatment. Here to tell us all about it is AutoVista24 special content editor, Phil Curry. Hi, Phil.
Hi, Tom. Great to be here as always.
So, Phil, not only did you produce the latest launch report alongside AutoVista Group's editors, but you also took the car for a spin on AutoVista24's YouTube channel. So, tell us, what's it like?
I think the key thing is that it's very much like the petrol Puma. It's a similar design both inside and out, and it feels very familiar, and I think that's key to Ford. Inside, the switchgear is similar, the infotainment layout is similar. It feels more like an addition rather than something special in the Puma range. There's a couple of sticking points. The infotainment-based controls are not fantastic. They can be a bit distracting when driving, while taller rear seat passengers may also find it a little bit uncomfortable. But overall, it's a very nice car to drive. The steering's very precise, the suspension's good. The performance is not standout for a battery electric vehicle, but it will still give you a decent 0 to 60 miles an hour time in around 8 seconds. Realistically, it's the most Ford battery electric vehicle yet in their lineup, and that's going to have to appeal to customers who already know the Ford Puma and may want to transition from petrol to electric with a model that is very familiar to them.
Okay, so a familiar model but with a new spin. How does this match up with what our AutoVista editors thought?
Well, we benchmarked the model in Austria, France, Germany, Spain and the UK. And AutoVista Group editors had a lot of praise. They all commented on the familiarity between the petrol and the battery electric versions. One key strength that stood out is the practicality and the storage, especially as the model comes with a 523-litre boot space. That includes a flat floor on the top, and then lifting that floor reveals what Ford called a gigabox, a very deep well where you can get much more storage. However, one of the main weaknesses was that it comes with 43 kilowatt hours of usable EV battery that only gives it up to 233 miles of range depending on the variant, which is quite low considering some of its competitors.
And how do all of these details tie in on the model's expected residual value performance?
It's a bit of a mixed bag in terms of forecast residual values. Spain has the best numbers, the UK has the worst. But overall it performs on par with many of its competitors in terms of both price and value retention. Now there is one issue, of course, that this is a late arrival to the battery electric vehicle market, and Ford has been seen to be playing a bit of catch up with its electric vehicle range. But overall, with that familiarity, as I said, it does offer that good transition step, and then drivers can look to go through the new Ford lineup as well. Now you can check the full details, including the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, and those forecast residual values on autovista24.com, and you can also view our detailed look at the model on the AutoVista24 YouTube channel.
Could battery health certificates really be the answer to so many questions for the used EV market? Here to help us straighten things out is AutoVista24 journalist Tom Hooker. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Tom. How's it going?
Really well, thanks. Now let's start simple. What is a battery health certificate, Tom?
A battery health certificate looks at a battery state of health, which is sometimes shortened to SOH. This is a report that tells you how much usable capacity an EV battery still has compared to when it was new. So you can think of it like checking the mileage or service history on an internal combustion engine model, except it focuses on the battery's range and performance.
And for used EV buyers, I guess knowing what shape the battery's in is pretty useful information.
It certainly is, Tom. The battery is the most valuable component of an EV. However, in most used sales, there's no clear way to assess its condition. So, in turn, it's harder to price the car, and buyers have less of an idea of what they're actually getting.
So, in effect, battery health certificates kind of take the guesswork out of it.
They can. State of health certificates provide more clarity and consistency that can build consumer trust. I spoke to Bib Battery's CEO, Pierre Amans-Lapierre, and he said the State of Health certificate brings much needed transparency and comparability to the used EV market. Roland Gargle, who's a board member at Cara, also shared a similar view during a presentation at the Used Vehicle Retail Summit back in June. He explained that without access to reliable and standardized data, there is no viable used EV market. He also made a comparison with smartphones, which I really liked. These days, you wouldn't think of buying a used phone without checking its battery health. But for EVs, which of course are much more expensive, that same level of visibility is still missing in many cases.
And from reading your article on Autovista 24, I know that he gave quite a stark example of this.
He did indeed. Gargle searched the online platform mobile.de for a popular German BEV model. Out of the 160 cars that matched his filters, just 50 mentioned having a battery certificate. Despite this, most of the results did not actually show the state of health value or a concrete number. Gargle said, "Imagine you sell a car without mileage and the buyer calls the dealer to know the mileage. What do you do with such an advertiser? Well, you just skip it and go to the next." He also checked a car maker's own website for buying used cars. He selected 2 of their BEV models, which gave him 2,600 search results. However, just 40 of these models had a battery certificate shown on the portal.
So then, what actually needs to happen moving forward? What kind of tangible changes can be made?
Well, I think it is important to note that there is progress happening, and this is coming both from independent companies such as Bib Batteries or Avalou, as well as OEMs, which are integrating battery diagnostics through infotainment screens and telematics. Gargle said that the key point now is how to get state of health into B2C sales and show the positive part of batteries. So this involves training salespeople to sell this information effectively to the consumer. Lapierre also said on the dealership side that salespeople need to be trained and that they need to provide their clients with battery certificates.
Well, thank you, Tom, but please don't go anywhere, as I'm going to keep you around for our next segment. The latest monthly market update is now live. Tom, can you take us through your headline used car market trends for July?
Sure. So there were 3 main trends that I picked up on. Firstly, new car list prices are continuing to rise month on month and year on year in Austria, France, Germany, Spain, Switzerland, and the UK. France saw the biggest increase in this metric, followed by Austria.
And why is this important when it comes to the used car market, Tom?
That's a great question, Tom. Rising new car list prices can cause more people to turn to the used car market. This then creates more demand, which means average absolute residual values can go up.
Interesting. Okay, so what other trends did you notice in July?
I also spotted a notable decline in both supply and demand across all observed countries. Spain suffered the most pronounced drop in supply, with Italy also seeing used car volumes fall sharply. Spain endured the strongest decrease in demand as well, while the UK and Germany recorded a significant decline in sales too.
So, not an ideal market situation. I know in last month's report you focused on residual values. How did they perform this time around?
It was a similar story. Average residual values of 36-month-old cars at 60,000 kilometres, presented as a percentage of the retained new car list price, declined across all 7 of the observed markets. Switzerland suffered the strongest year-on-year decline in this metric, and this was followed by Italy and Spain.
Thanks again, Tom. Now, that was just a small snapshot of our stories published this week on autovista24.com. If you'd like to read the monthly market update, the battery health certificate piece, or the Ford Puma Gen-E launch report, then head over to our website. Also this week, the Autovista 24 team had a look at Australia's EV market and the automotive trends in Romania. There will be links down in the show notes. And make sure you sign up for our email as well. That way you'll get the latest news straight to your inbox. And subscribe to the Autovista 24 podcast wherever you listen to us. Check out Autovista 24's YouTube channel too. There you'll find our What Is Explainer videos, launch report series, and webinar recordings. A big thank you to Autovista 24 web editor James Roberts for co-producing this episode, and another thank you to Autovista 24 special content editor Phil Curry and Autovista 24 journalist Tom Hooker for appearing in this episode. The music was Better Find a Solution Fast by Richard Ames. Thank you very much for listening to the Autovista 24 podcast.